It is another edition of the On the Mic podcast. And as I said to start off, I'm going to try to not fanboy out this entire interview because the guest today, we stepped outside of the cage for now. We may go back into the cage, but we stepped outside of the cage. But you've seen this man in many places, and his new movie, The Bastard Sons, is out now. You can get it on Amazon Prime, Apple TV, Vudu, and many more. Get The Bastard Sons. I've watched it probably 2-3 times already since we've booked this interview. Here's the one and only Kevin Interdonato. How are you, sir?
I'm good, Mike. I'm good. Thanks for having me, man. It's a pleasure.
Also geeking out, obviously, The Sopranos, Law and Order, and then City on a Hill, which I loved. I mean, you're just everywhere. And as much as I'm like the sports guy, the sports broadcaster, I have such a, I guess, hidden passion for film and TVs. And, we're not going to give anything away, but the ending of your movie, in The Bastard Sons, had my jaw on the floor. And I had like a group chat of like MMA fans, and I was telling everybody. And so my one buddy and his girlfriend were watching it. And they're like, holy shit, she wasn't into it at first. Then at the end, she was like, she couldn't talk. So when we're talking about just movies and all that you do as a whole, working in the indie movie scene, what drives you when you put pen to paper? Because you're not just an actor, you're directing, you're writing, you're doing all of that. What drives you when you put pen to paper?
Oh man, I guess good question. I guess being in this field, um I think I'm obsessive by nature, and putting all that energy into what I do kind of keeps me walking a straight line. And I'm constantly seeking moments of fulfillment. I gave up on the fact that I'll ever be fulfilled, but those moments of fulfillment, which I have as an actor periodically, I wish I had them more. But you really can't, when you get cast in something, you have no power over anything. You're kind of like a spoke in a wheel, man. So you hope for things to pop off and resonate with you, but it's so few and far between. I started writing a few years back, and that started like, satisfying something in me a little bit too. And then producing, I come from a family construction business. Grew up with my dad, I was born with work boots on. So I just kind of have a sixth sense for business, and producing is essentially that. Every movie is its own LLC. So it's like putting things together. You just got to have a hustle to you, and, kind of a go get it kind of attitude. So that satisfied that urge. And then directing, I never directed before. I never really read anything about it. I never thought about it until I wrote Bastard Sons, and I was so attached to it. I'm like, I don't think I can let someone else do this, And yeah, so those moments of fulfillment is what I strive for, and I've been finding it in different ways.
I love it. And I think you could really see that just in the couple minutes we've already spoken. Now, talking to you and thinking about the movie, I think that really stands out. As an East Coast guy, when you talk about The Bastard Sons, obviously Sopranos, everything you've done, City on a Hill, everything you've done, there's kind of there's a unique flavor to it. And with that being said, how important was it for you to keep that East Coast mentality? I listened to other interviews you did. In the movie, you never talk about mafia or mob. You never mention it, throughout the movie, but you just understand, and I said something to everyone in my little group, and I'm not making this up. Before I even saw the online reviews, The Bastard Sons is really Four Brothers meets The Sopranos. I mean, it's the perfect way to describe it. But you have to kind of keep that authenticity with it. So filming in Jersey, I'm in Chicago, but I've lived in Jersey. So there was a lot of places that you were. I was like, oh, I know where he's at.
Cool, man.
So but how important is it to keep it authentic and kind of true to form, to where you're filming, to kind of the culture of where you're filming and all of that?
Very. It's always on my mind. So I lived in LA for 7 years. I ducked out about 12 years ago, and it sucked. LA sucks, man. I mean, it's nice to visit and everything, but to live there, it was a joke. Made some good friends in the business, really good friends. They're like family, but not a lot. A bit of a hermit. But I did meet my wife out there, who, by the way, you're a City on a Hill fan?
Yes.
My wife is Kathy Ryan.
I love that. I love
Yeah.
it. That's awesome. I
Uh,
wish that show never ended.
I know, man. I don't know what happened. I don't know why they pulled the plug on it, but it's how it goes, you know. So Jersey is very, very special to me. The Jersey vibe, it's an attitude, it's not an accent, you know, and it's just kind of feel. Ironically enough, the next film I'm making is in Chicago, man, in October, so I'll keep you posted. Um,
You need some extra getting beat up or somebody going, let me know.
you want to jump in? Yeah, man. You put a lot of that in it. So yeah, it's important. It's a character in itself, and if I didn't do it in New Jersey, especially Sons, there would be a lack of authenticity about it. You know, no one's putting on an act. Half the cast, most of the supporting cast in Bastard Sons are non-actors. My dad's in it. My dad's buddies, all my buddies, and there's certain things I look for in non-actors because I didn't want anyone to put on a performance. It would have fucked it up. You know, I was like, this is not a performance thing. I was more focused on people being relaxed and just really understanding the material and their character and just kind of going through it, you know, and you never know what people think, man. It's so nice to hear your words. I really appreciate it. I know it's genuine, and you don't know what people think till they see it. I never knew women would like the movie. I've been like surprised, man. I'm like, wow, that's great. Cool.
You know what it is? I think this genre of movie, this style of movie, it's missing these days. You know, you mentioned the reason I asked that question is because sometimes you'll get movies that want to be like the Bastard Sons, but they're filmed in like Cleveland, but they act like they're in New York. And it's like
Yeah.
you can kind of see right through the BS. And so for me, it was authentic. And I think I'm not like I don't have a list of independent movies that I like, but sometimes I prefer them over your big box office hits because
Yeah.
you can just see the realism in everything, you know, whether it's a shaky camera or, you know, and I'm a guy who's been in broadcasting my whole life. So whether it's a shaky camera or the angle is different, or you're like, man, Steven Spielberg wouldn't go for this shot, but it makes sense in this movie. You know,
Yeah.
I just think that when it's somebody who's not driven by, like you said, you've lived in LA, when someone's not driven by Hollywood or
Yeah.
the rules of Hollywood, it makes a film that much more interesting. And that's why I grew attached to it. And I'll probably keep watching The Bastard Sons for about the next month just because it's and like I just continue to be like I just want to find more and more in the movie that sticks out to me. And the fact
Yeah.
that you're now gonna film one in my hometown in October, like I'll be the first one signing up to watch it.
Cool,
Um
man.
Speaking outside of, you know, the movie, I know you've also served. I should have started with this and say thank you for your service
Oh,
and all
thanks.
that and all that you have done in your life. What has really gotten you to where you're at? I know you said, you know, speaking of never being fulfilled, but with
Yeah.
so many experiences, living all around the world, serving the country, how do you bring that all into your day to day?
I think that stuff, you know, as an actor, you use yourself, you personalize everything. If God forbid you have to play a scene, actors are all different. Actors are fucking weird, man. You know, if there's a scene, five actors could get the same scene, say five male actors, and it's God forbid it's a scene where it bothers me to even say this, like your child passes away, right? I feel that different now because I have a little daughter. 5 years ago, I would have felt differently about it. I wouldn't have been able to connect to that. So you use things, personal things in your life that kind of would elicit the same emotion on camera. So someone that doesn't have a child would maybe possibly think about their brother passing away or their dad, but the emotion is the same and it conveys for the scene, right? So for me, if it's not real, then and if it's not real for people even watching on crew, then it's bullshit. It's like why even do it? And there's to get to what you're saying, you pull from your life experiences, but there's certain things in life that I went through, other people went through that you don't want to visit that. And for the most part, my time overseas in war, I don't visit that much. That's something that it's hard even to talk about, man. It's to dip into that brings something else out of me, and it's not healthy, and I'm still dealing with things from it, even though it's been 20 years ago. It's like yesterday, man. You know, so going through that, going through other things. I mean, I had cancer in 2018. That was a whirlwind, man. I almost bit it. Um, I think what that does is change you as a person, for me anyway, rather than doing anything for me as an actor, you know? I think people's life experiences make them who they are, and it's also how they handle it. You know, you can go, there's some dudes I was overseas with that they went south, man, you know? There's some people that went through things in their life and didn't come on the bright side of it. So yeah, to answer, I hope that answers your question.
No, no, it does, and very thankful for you to share that, and obviously don't want to tap into things that you don't want to talk about. But I think it is important for people to know, like a lot of actors like yourself, they do pull from life, and I think
Yeah,
too often, just like in sports, we just see, oh, that's just Tom Brady, or that's just LeBron James, like
right.
and they never care about the person themselves. So that was, listen, you're the first actor I've ever had on this podcast, and that's
Oh,
why,
there you go.
yeah.
Cool.
So, but it's also, like I said, it's an untapped kind of area for me because, I've had comics on it and done all that, but, I have such a passion for film because I think there's so much underlining stories told in every show and every movie. I mean, I can go on and on with, stuff like that. But you mentioned something that I really enjoyed earlier, which was all your friends are in the movie, your
Yeah,
dad's in the movie.
yeah.
That's amazing. Not only just like independent and all that, but that's just amazing in telling of a person that you are, but also just your vision for the movie. And obviously, after you, I'll be speaking to one of the co-stars. All UFC fans will know, Frankie Edgar. And never thought I'd see Donnie Mac shooting a gun. I thought he'd be in a fight scene. I want to ask you specifically about that. Too often we'll see an athlete or we'll see, an MMA fighter get cast in a movie, and all they are is the tough guy beat him up with his fists. He's using his MMA moves. You made Frankie just a Jersey gangster. What was the thought process behind that?
So there's two answers to that question, and please reel me in if I go this way
Yeah,
with.
yeah, no, it's fine.
So we'll talk about Frankie, but before I talk about Frankie, and this kind of leads into that, um, you mentioned Hollywood before. I don't even know what Hollywood is anymore, dude. The business has changed so much. What's been a wonderful thing for me as an actor and now making stuff as well is that, when people see films like the last one I did got released in October. It's called Malicious. And when Malicious got released on Amazon, it was sandwiched between two Hollywood movies right on Amazon. And anyone watching Amazon, like scrolling through, they don't know the difference between Hollywood and indie or studio and indie. It's just a movie. So being an independent artist, going to that world, which 95% of this industry is indie, you could beat on the wall to Hollywood all you want. You don't break walls down in Hollywood. They have to open them to you. So it's either you wait around for that shit or you do your own thing. And you just hope you can compete at that level. And that's what I've been striving for. So to kind of go around full circle, what you're saying, you can tell there's a difference between a Hollywood movie and an indie film, something that's real. As an actor, there's a big tendency, and a lot of actors have it. And I'd be lying if I said I didn't have it either. And it's called hero moments. And it's if you get a role in something and the writing is really good, or sometimes the writing is a little, Hollywoodish, and you have a tendency to want to have like that home run line. So if the line, Mike, was like, you'll never see me again, that's the line, right?
Yeah.
So if I get a line like that, I trust the director, I trust the script, I have to give myself over to that as an actor. And I'll just look at the other actor and I'll just tell him straight up. I'll say, you'll never see me again. A lot of actors get that line and they'll do this shit. They'll be like, you'll never see me again. And it pulls away from the reality of things. It's like the hero moment. There's no hero moments in life. You're stepping your dog shit. Everyone's picking up dog shit. Like, it's life. So if I could bring a reality to whatever I'm doing, like I do as an actor, making a film, writing it with reality in mind, directing with reality in mind, and literally just put real people in heightened situations and see how they react. That to me is the epitome of film. I strive for that as an actor, and I've been striving for it as a writer and a director. Now, Frankie. So Frankie's he's a cool dude. We ended up growing up like few minutes from each other. some mutual friends and stuff. And I was invited to his podcast. Him and Roger Matthews have a
Yeah.
podcast, Champ and the Tramp. So we hit it off. We didn't know each other from Adam, and stayed in touch a little bit. And then it was time to cast Bastard Sons, and a little time went by, and I hit them up to see if they'd want to be in it, and they were both down. I was like, all right, great. And then one of the lead roles opened up, scheduling conflict. So I hit up Frankie because I was thinking about it, and I was like, I only work with friends. I rarely hire anyone I don't know unless it's a referral through someone. Like Al Sapienza, he was my boy's friend. My buddy played Dobson in the movie, Joe Cernio. Was great. So yeah, he's one of my best friends. We grew up together. He's terrific. So there's only a couple people that I never met before the film, but I got to know them prior to filming. With Frankie, he never did it before, but I think he had a nice transition to it because the medium that the Bastard Sons is doesn't require acting. I don't like acting. I told everyone, I was like, don't come in this thinking you're going to give a performance. It's going to fuck it up. It'll really fuck it up if someone gives the hero line. It's not about that. I'll put you in these situations. Just be comfortable, relaxed, and get into it and go. And I think everyone was really comfortable making this movie, and they just believed in me. Because if they didn't believe in me, it would show. They would be doing their own thing. So I'm really fortunate, So Frankie just kind of fell into it. I mean, it looks like he's a fucking seasoned actor, man. Like he did a really good job. And I think he got the bug. You're gonna talk to him too?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Frankie got the bug, man. So
Yeah, which I got to give you a big thank you too for that. But I also got to ask you, as a writer and director, this for all MMA fans want to know, because in the world of MMA and fighting, I don't need to tell you this, but in fighting and MMA, everyone's waiting for the retired guy to always come back. But I know that's not where Frankie's at. I know the Champ and the Tramp podcast is great. I know everything else he's doing is great. Does Frankie Edgar have a future in movies?
Oh yeah, I think he does, man. I really do, because there's aspects that actors, put it this way, when you start acting, you take acting classes, right? You're fucked if you get an acting coach or an acting class that's not really good, because you start learning on the wrong foot. It's like learning at a young age how to swing a bat. You're playing ball, but you didn't have the proper training, and you're doing that for years. It's hard to go back and see where you fell off, or go from the beginning and start swinging a bat the way a bat should be swung. With an actor, if you start off with a coach that's not good, or there's other reasons why they're not guiding you in the right direction as an actor, you're fucked. And Frankie had a good experience because there was no acting class. He just knows what it's like to do film now. He felt it, and he's not acting, which is great. And there was things I talked about Frankie. He might mention it, like, literally controlling your breathing. If you feel like your heart rate's coming up a little bit, cool it down. He's a professional athlete, so he has like skills that other people don't have. You know what I mean? That kind of lend itself to being an actor. Like, it's a nerve-wracking business. He's used to nerves. He fought in front of millions of people. So if you can just calm and focus, that's a huge thing. Like a huge thing being an actor that actors are not able to do. So Frankie's got skill sets he's not even aware of, and he's a presence. He's a charismatic guy. He's good on screen, and he knew his lines inside and out. So yeah, I think he'd be really good moving forward, man. Yeah.
Couple more on the movie, and then I just a couple other questions for you outside of the movie. When we talked about perfectly cast, we just talked about Frankie, his co-host on the Champ and Tramp, Roger Matthews, which as a kid growing up in the Jersey Shore days, I was like, oh, there he is. No one more perfectly cast in your movie than Roger Matthews to play the role that he played.
Yeah.
Was just like Frankie, was he just a natural fit? You're like, all right, we're gonna find the best small size t-shirt that fits you perfectly, and you're gonna whoop everyone's ass.
He's Frankie's Roger's a big motherfucker, man. Like
he really is.
So I called the character Big. I don't know what else to call him. It was just big, man, and he just towers over everybody. And he was cool, man. He did his thing. He had a lot of fun, and he's been promoting the movie too. And the movie lends itself to a sequel, and that sequel's been in my mind for a long time, but I have to gauge how this movie does, and it'll be a few months from now to see if that's worth doing. Because you got to get investors, and I would never want to gyp anyone or not have the end in mind before we start and know that the movie can make my investors their money back if it doesn't on this one. So even though we did a very low budget and everything, I'll be able to tell because I'm not gonna do the sequel just to satisfy my own need for fulfillment. I gotta make sure if I'm making a business out of this, people have to they have to be fulfilled too in their own way, you know?
You're really good at this media world because that was going to be one of my questions if we were going to get a sequel because it's perfectly set for
Yeah.
a sequel to happen. How everything kind of
Yeah.
transpires.
I was just
I
driving with Frankie the other day. We did we were on Good Day New York and we drove to the city together with Amanda, my wife, and we are talking about it and stuff. So I told him what the see because I already know what's gonna happen. I know about it. So I told him about it and he started going nuts. He was like, wow. Yeah, if you think there's a if the first one is interesting and had a big hook.
Yeah, I mean, a big hook is to say the least. Now, this is me being, like I said, I've grown up when I was in high school. I took film and TV class.
Oh, cool, man.
I went to Illinois Media School. I've wanted to go to Second City, Chicago, and start acting class and stuff like
Oh,
that.
yeah.
That's how much, but I've always just hidden behind the sports broadcaster in me. Because I'm like, no actor's ever gonna want to talk to me. But now talking to you, like I feel way more comfortable. So I'm gonna hit you with something, and I might be crazy. I just want you to give me your honest feedback. The scene, without giving the movie away, the scene when downstairs and the boxing fight is on. There's specific commentary in that boxing match that would fit the life of a guy ridden in crime who likes to work. I mean, using things like stabbing across the eye or he just missed them here. Was that done purposely?
Man, that's a good feeling. Yeah, it was done purposely. I can't, you don't know what people are gonna pick up on, man. Like, oh wow, that's such a good feeling, dude. I'm glad you caught that. When you're writing, you're in your own like bubble, and I'd be in the basement, my wife would just hear me like cracking up or making noises or whatever, and I'm going through the emotions, visualizing it as I'm writing, and then directing it on set, and then post production, which is wild, bro. The sounds and everything. So that's specifically not giving it away, but the fight on you see on the screen, we went through so many. It was very specific what I wanted to see on screen, but even more specific, the dialogue. And that was captured and cut specifically to elicit a response like you had hearing it. So yeah, it was a taste of things to come. Yeah.
Yeah, I love, and it's all, and I'm not brown nosing here. I'm just being genuine. It's a credit to you because the way you sat there and you just took it all in as you watched the boxing match play out. It all made sense in my very
Wow.
small brain.
No, no, no. Your brain's a lot bigger than you think. If you caught on to that, there's a lot of seeds planted in the movie, a lot. And seeds that I'm not even expecting people to catch on. We might tap into it when we do the sequel and bring a clip from the first one into it. So, you know, but well, that's really cool. Thanks for even.
No, no. I'm telling you, like this movie is something like it kind of rejuvenated me. To want to talk about other stuff, and like I said, not just the sports stuff. And speaking of that, over the past, especially year, the stoppage in Hollywood, the strikes, all that, you
Yeah.
know, we're in such a unique time where look where your movie's at. I know here in Chicago, there's a movie theater like 30 miles away from where I live that's showing The Bastard Sons
Yeah.
in theaters. And that's obviously great. But you have so many streaming platforms. Just first and foremost, the change in Hollywood, before I even ask you about streaming, just you talked about 95% is indie, which when you think of just regular TV and all blockbusters, that number kind of is like, whoa, like I never would have recognized that. Where do you think Hollywood is going and where could it end up in 5 years?
I don't know, man. Like it's kind of scary, My wife and I do this full time, and it doesn't mean like we're rolling and making millions of dollars. We make enough to actually have a life and exist normally. Like I grew up, and we just happen to be creatives and in this industry, And to be able to do that, it's tough. It's nonstop. It's 24/7. It doesn't end. So the way the business is going, it's kind of twofold. It's like there's more opportunities, but the money is not there like it used to be. It's very different. So you have to be so in tune, like with the end in mind, if you're going to create a project now, of what the realities of of getting money back. And also as an actor, dude, you don't get paid nearly as much, especially like on television or big stuff like it used to be. So like I think a working actor back in the day when I started, you were considered a working actor if you got 2 gigs a year. Now, to get that same money as 2 gigs a year, you got to do at least 5 or 6 projects. So you have to work that much more, and there's that many more actors and everything. Not complaining. This is the career I chose, dude. You know, it's not that. It's just it's different. So what I was saying before is like about Hollywood and everything. I don't denounce Hollywood. Shit, man. I watch Marvel movies like the next guy. I love that stuff. You know, I do. I got my 4-year-old daughter watching the Avengers, and you know, which I shouldn't be doing, but you know, it's how we bond. So I grew up with graphic novels. I love that stuff. It's a treat for me. And when the time comes that I get into a couple studio projects, awesome. But I'm not going to deviate from what I'm doing because the way the business has been going, it's giving independent people an opportunity to be on the same platforms like we are talking about VOD and everything. Theatrical, I have no idea what's going to happen, man. It's scary. I love going to movies. I found myself not going as much anymore too. You know what I mean? It sucks, but it's like a special occasion now where I used to just be like in the theater all the time. So I don't know, but I do know that the art is always going to be there. People are always going to want to be creating, and I hope that there's enough money in the street in the industry to sustain it because a lot of people in my life that I came up with are they're gone. They're not in the business anymore. You know.
This one's loaded and it's all about streaming and there's a few parts to it and hopefully I don't sound like an idiot. But when we talk about streaming, first and foremost, I'll start with one. You feel it has helped or hurt the business? I'm going to obviously assume help because it gives more platforms for especially those in the independent scene.
Yeah.
But also to that nature, what would you tell someone? I've had people, especially on the sports side, be like, man, this X name fighter has such a crazy backstory. Somebody should do a documentary on him. Like,
Yeah.
well, okay, that's great. I have an iPhone and an iPad, and I don't have any sorts of money. Yeah, but if you just pitch it to the right person, maybe you can go on Netflix or Amazon. Everyone thinks they have like that direct avenue. So first and foremost, obviously, I would say you would believe it's helped the industry having all these streaming platforms. But what would you say to someone who wanted to get some type of, whether it be documentary or short film or just their own movie out there, and the best way to get it to the eyes of one of these streaming platforms?
I'd say don't be delusional. That's just as much as saying like someone that grew up as a tough guy and knocked dudes out and always held his own real good thinks he's gonna see someone like Frankie outside in a bar and be able to take him. Like it's the most delusional thing in the world, and people still think it. There's people that come into the film business that have very successful businesses, like multimillionaires, and they get squashed. You know, you have to know this industry. So if I was to say out the game, I mean, there's a lot of things to know, dude. So I'm not shortchanging this answer, but I will say these 2 things are most important. One, I'd say if it's your first one out the gate, don't be a jerk off and take someone else's money to make your project if you don't know what you're doing, because more likely than not, you're gonna come up short. You know, do it. You invest in yourself. If you feel that strongly about an idea and yourself, then proof up and invest in yourself. And the second thing is, so basically number one is like get your own money up, because with money you can literally do anything. You can. And then immediately after, it's being able to make the right choices once you have access or have that money. And hopefully that person is smart enough and doesn't have to go through the shit that I went through. Like, call me up, learn from my mistakes, man. I'll tell you real. But you have to have people around you that have already done it successfully or already made the mistakes to be like, don't do that, or don't go there. Don't spend 6 months doing that. You're going to kick yourself in the ass. Nothing's going to come from it. So it's having the finances and having the person there on your side to let you know what the right thing to do is. Those are the 2 most important, I would say.
Well, this has been very informative, and I've had a lot of fun. I've got a few more here for you. I've seen it, and I don't want to ask the same questions you've been asked and done it every interview. And I will admit that I've done so much homework since booking this interview. I watched pretty much every interview you have on YouTube.
Oh man.
I know the now I know the famous story from you and The Sopranos and the pants and the snacks. Do you have any other great moments during your time there, or maybe a curveball, a great moment from being on City on a Hill, since that was the one I connected with you more? Because as a half Italian, I've made the worst mistake as living both in Chicago and Jersey. I've never finished The Sopranos.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, so I'd probably hear the pitchforks outside right now, but
Yeah.
City on a Hill. So maybe I'll change the question. You have a moment from City on a Hill that you're like that you can kind of relate to your story on The Sopranos?
Oh man. No, I don't. No, no crazy stories of City on a Hill. It was a lot of fun. Met some great people. My wife too. So we're very good friends with John Tucker and Mark O'Brien, Matt Del Negro, who played my boss on the show. Um, and Amanda, my wife, just did a movie that's coming out hopefully this year called Topper with Mark O'Brien, who played Jimmy, the
Yeah,
crazy little
yeah.
brother. So they both started a movie together, and it was just like, it's amazing, man. Um, so my time on City on Hill was great. I met well, Chuck McLean. So Amanda was on the show first, and I literally auditioned randomly for the show, and I was lucky enough to get a small part. So I had like a couple one-liners in the first season, and then they bumped me up and they asked me to play a bigger role in the second season. It was a much bigger role. I'm not putting blame on anybody. Um, my role was really prominent the second season, but they literally cut half my scenes out because it was extremely racist, the cop I played. And at that time, there was a lot of that stuff going on. And I think, well, I know Showtime didn't want any backlash. So unfortunately, I was home watching it and I was like, wait a minute, didn't I have a scene here? Or didn't, it was just scenes cut. I was like, oh, geez. So that's the nature of the beast. It happens, man. But I did meet Chuck McLean. Chuck was the creator of the show that Ben Affleck reached out to create it. Chuck is Guy in The Bastard Sons, the real brash dude with the
Yeah,
mustache.
yeah, 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 yeah.
He's the creator of City on a Hill, and now he's not an actor either. That was his first acting role.
That's awesome.
And he's fucking incredible, right? Like what you saw, that's Chuck, dude. And he's like, "How do you want me to do it?" I was like, "Just
Just
go, dude. Just go." So he did. He improved a lot. He's a hell of a character, and he's a hell of a guy. He's funny as hell. So yeah, I got a lot of good stuff out of the people I met on that show. Amanda too. Sopranos, it's bittersweet. It was a small role, and half of the stuff I had another episode and a half cut from that show too. It happens, but ultimately, it's kind of cool. People referring to that show. I didn't try that, but I think what that show did was it really showed a humanity to people who just happened to be gangsters. That's what I liked about it. That's what I picked up on it. I never really thought of the Bastard Sons, these guys, as gangsters. I never talked about that, mobsters. I wanted to shy away from anything cliche, bada bing, bada boom. To me, some stuff I see is, I'm not knocking anyone, but it's laughable. But The Sopranos had a really good way of portraying the high moments and the reality moments of those men. So for Sons, I just kind of kept it real and put them in that world.
That's why to start, I kept calling it very authentic. I mean, listen, you go to many backyards in Jersey, I guarantee you find an 8-year-old son asking about Big Ziti. I mean,
Yeah.
that's just gonna happen.
Right.
Now, you mentioned something about your lines getting cut, and one of my favorite shows on TV is Chicago PD. I'm ridiculously obsessed with that show.
Cool.
There's a moment during COVID and the BLM movement where the black officer on the show, Atwater, they prominently feature him in a very, very tense episode. And you're like, oh, it fits the time of where we currently are. It was like the week after things were going crazy in our country, they aired that episode. When it comes to, and maybe I would like you to speak on it, when it comes to someone like yourself who's done both film and TV, where do you think we're going to go in the future when undoubtedly lines are going to continue to get pushed
Yeah.
and crossed, and things are going to happen to this country where, you know, Hollywood or whomever are going to go, listen, this would really fit what we're doing here, but we can't do it because we got to avoid the real life backlash.
Yeah. It's a crock of shit, dude. You know, it's a crock of shit. You know, no one ever told a painter what not to paint. You know, it's art at the end of the day, and we're creating something for people to relate to, and you want to move people. That's my ultimate goal. I always strive for that. So even in Sons, I mean, there's some pretty foul language in there, and I had the option in Sons to go a different way in post production once we were editing. I had the option based on the footage we had to go Sundance or go, will the people I grew up with like this movie? And I consciously made that decision. I even called a couple of my boys who were in the movie. All my buddies are in the movie, and asked them. I said, what do you think?" And they're like, "Just stick to your guns. Stick to your guns." So a true story. I'm not going to mention names. I reached out to someone that that was involved on the board of directors at a very big, well-known film festival. On the back, there's all politics involved in that shit, dude. You know? But look, politics are not bad if you're on the good side of it. So it's like, whatever. People are going to complain. I'm not complaining. There's just what is, and that's it. I reached out to a dude who was on a board of directors at a big festival through a friend, and my friend saw the early cut of Sons and sent it to him, and he asked him to watch it to see if, you know, we're going to submit to this festival. So this dude hit me back. He called me, and he had really similar reactions to yourself. He was really fond of the movie, and I was really grateful of it. And then he said to me, "Don't send it to the festival. You're not going to get it." I said, "Why, man? Why? I don't get it." And he's like, not the movie this festival wants to show right now." I was like, wow. So I submitted anyway, and I got rejected. And I submitted to a bunch, and I got rejected. I got rejected by almost every film festival I submitted to. And then Vertical Entertainment, one of the biggest distribution companies in Hollywood, goes and picks us up. So you do the math, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm not knocking, I'm not bitter. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't pissed off a little bit here and there. I sure as hell was. But there's realities of this business that, regardless of how I feel about it, it is what it is, man. And I realized, like, okay, if film festivals are not the route for my kind of, I don't know, whatever I generate as a creator, then so be it. Because at the end of the day, I'm not trying to satisfy someone at a film festival, you know, in the audience, like critiquing my shit and this and that. I want to see what you, my brother, my boys, the guys in the army thing. I want to see what people in New Jersey, outside of Jersey. I just did a podcast with some gentlemen in Texas, and they loved it, which was crazy. I didn't think it would like go past the Jersey border. You know, I didn't know. So it really warms me up knowing that people respond to it. And that's all I could wish for, man. If I affect people to the point where you watched it more than once, and you know, fuck the film festivals, man. I'll just reach out to people that want to see it, you know?
Well, not only do I want to see it, I obviously want a sequel. You know, I also just wanted to see all your work, you know,
Oh,
past
wow.
and moving forward. You talk a lot about your circle. Damn it, I'm trying to get in that circle. That's a, you know, you're a man who, you know, as someone like myself, like, damn, that's how I wish everyone I knew was like, where you stayed loyal to those around you, you
Yeah,
helped out those around you. Because we all grew up on those rituals, right? We're like, we take care of each other. If we're boys, we're boys. If we're family, we're family. But in
right.
2024, like that shit doesn't matter anymore. Nobody
Nah,
stays true to that.
nah. You gotta
So
stay true, man.
to see you, you know, cast your dad, cast, you know, creator of another show that you were on, cast your boys, cast your friends, you know, that's just something where I'm like, damn, all right, every time you've got something, you want some promotion or you want to come on and talk about it, like I'll do it just for whatever. I don't care. You know, just because of the type of person you are. I think it's so rare, you know, because the reason why you're like, why don't you do more podcasts about TV and movies? Because I don't want to have to go through 17 channels to try to get one actor or actress. And then the last person they got me was an extra who was running through a fire scene. You know, like I'm good. I'm good. Grateful. I'll talk about it, but I'm also not somebody who's going to sit on a microphone and talk about, oh, well, next week on this episode. I'm not that guy. You know, I want everyone who watches my podcast, whether it's 5 people or 50 or 500, to get to know Kevin Interdonato, you know, and not just like I said earlier, not just, oh, hi, Tom Brady. Yeah, why'd you miss that pass? LeBron, why'd you miss that free throw? You know,
Yeah.
get to know the person behind the action. And so I just want to thank you for your time today. Thank you for the opportunity. And hopefully we stay in touch. And when you're in Chicago, your biggest fan is right here in Chicago.
Oh, thanks, man. Thanks.
Yeah, no,
I
seriously.
commend you too, man. You know, podcasts it's a business. It's tough, and you're doing your thing, and you're keeping it authentic, man. And you know, it's I think we make these life choices every day, especially with business, because we all want something, and it's like, what are you willing to do to get it? You know, and I won't bend for nothing, and I know you won't either, and that's cool. That's really commendable of you, man. So keep trucking. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you. It was really nice to get to know you, bro. And I might be out in February for a location scout, so I'll give you a shout.
Okay, all right. I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate it, man. Good luck with it.
The Bastard Sons on VOD everywhere, on Amazon Prime, Vudu, Apple TV. Make sure to go check it out.